Over the past few days, a ton of new Dragonflight news has come out from various interviews. The MrGm interview, the Asmongold interview, and a few other miscellaneous interviews have all occurred over the weekend to give us a bunch of new information about WoW's next content update. Today, I'll be going over all this stuff as well as giving my thoughts on each of the news tidbits, so to speak. So the first piece of news comes from the MrGm interview. Now this is a pretty good interview. I'll have it linked down below. MrGm is a great content creator. He does a bunch of Ptr stuff. Great guy. I follow him on Twitter, so I'll link his video down below as well. There's a transcript up on Wowhead of everything that happened, so I'll link that as well. He went over a few things with some of the developers. I believe he was with Brian Holinka, but don't quote me on that. I can check after. So the biggest thing that came out of this is new race class combos. So within the interview, he talks to the developer, and the developer implies that, well, actually, he just straight up says that Rogue, Priest, and Mage are now going to be available to every race. This is kind of big. So this opens up roughly 8 new race class combinations that just didn't exist before. Those being Rogue Draenei, Rogue Lightforged Draenei, Rogue Tauren, Rogue High Mountain Tauren, Priest Orc, Priest High Mountain Tauren, Mage Tauren, and Mage High Mountain Tauren. So as you can see, the Taurens and the High Mountain Taurens kind of get a lot. Lightforged Draenei can be rogues now, orcs can be priests, and that's kind of big. So that just allows for more race class customizations for everybody. Everybody can play what they want and play the class they want. They also said with the interview that they're looking to increase all classes to all races, but this will take more time. They started with these ones because these are kind of the easiest to kind of smooth over. Stuff like paladins, demon hunters, druids are kind of harder to give to every class, every race. But they're aiming to try and get that out eventually. And I think that's pretty cool. It'd be cool if every single druid customization has their own like forms, like little mechanome forms. They like robot, shift, transformer kind of thing. Or like, I don't know, I could be like a Volpera demon hunter just for the memes. So that's interesting. That's fun. I'm very much, I love new classes, class race combos. Just opens up so much more customization in the game, and that's always a good thing. The other big stuff they went over is new talent info. We didn't learn anything more about the trees like what talents are on the trees themselves. We got a little bit more insight into how the talent trees work. So the first of those is that the desire for shareable talent trees to happen. So kind of like if you play Hearthstone, for instance, you can go online, you can find someone's deck, you can just copy the deck code and paste it into the game, and then boom, then you have a deck. While this is being worked on, they don't want it in for launch. Mainly the reason for this is that they're putting all this work in the new talent system. So they want people to kind of play around and experiment with different talent builds and all that. Now, needless to say, there will be like talent guides up on YouTube, like my channel, or up on different websites like Wowhead or Icy Veins. But for now, they just want the ability for people to kind of make their own and not feel pressured to grab somebody else's talent thing and just plug and play that. But there is plans for that to be in post-launch, so look forward to that later on. One of the other things I talked about are talent gates, and these are kind of the diamonds you see on the left side. We're not 100% sure on how these will be finalized, since they've mentioned before they don't want these are kind of placeholder. But essentially what these are is that like they lock you into the upper part of the tree or middle part of the tree until you put like an X number of points into it. So this is to kind of emphasize people going wide in the talent trees instead of just bum rushing their way down to the capstone talent. So this kind of allows for more experimentation, and hopefully allows more people to kind of like not miss their interrupt, like just because the interrupt is on the talent tree and then some Randy over there doesn't take it for some stupid reason. So these are here trying to incentivize going wide, taking a few different talents from along the row instead of going straight down a column into their capstone. And then after you put in a certain number of points, the gate will unlock and you can go further past it. Finally, they mentioned covenant abilities in the talent tree. As we see, the Resto Druid and the Balanced Druid one both have Convoke the Spirits, but they're thinking of bringing a lot more covenant abilities that make sense into classes. So I believe they also mentioned that Resto Druids had access to Adaptive Swarm, and they might still have that. We're not sure. But the one that keeps coming up is Abomination Limb for Death Knights, and I think that one makes a lot of sense because Abom Limb is very like Death Knight related. It makes a lot of sense kind of thematically. So that one would make sense showing up, so I wouldn't be surprised if that comes. But it'd be interesting to see what other covenant abilities, maybe like Divine Toll for Paladins or whatever. The final thing from this interview is that Drakthir are going to be like hero classes like Demon Hunter and Death Knight were, which means that the Drakthir are limited to 1 per realm per account. Your first one you make can be made on any realm, regardless of character level. So I could go make one on I don't know, like Zul'jin. Even though I don't have any characters on Zul'jin, I can go make a Drac through there. However, after that, you have to have a character at level 50 on the realm in order to make a Drakthir. This is just to kind of stop botting, because it'd be basically a free level 60 boost, which would make botting kind of crazy. So yeah, that's all for the MrGm interview. Really good interview. Again, I'll have it linked down below. But there's other big news that comes out over the weekend too, so we'll get to that now. So the biggest piece of news over the weekend is that only 4% of my viewers watching the video are actually subscribed to me. So this is a very low number. So if you're not subscribed and you're watching the video, please consider hitting the subscribe button and liking the video. It really helps, really shows your support. And stick around. I'll be making a bunch of 9.2.5's content, a bunch of guides, a bunch of Dragonflight news coverage. So I really appreciate it, and thank you. Now, the actual biggest piece of news was the Asmongold interview. So everyone knows who Asmongold is. I'm not even going to talk about him. He's one of the biggest content creators in the WoW sphere. People have different opinions on him, but he's generally a decent guy. I'll link the interview he did with Ian down below, and then there's a transcript up on Wowhead. But there are a few things we actually learned from the Asmongold interview about a bunch of different aspects of the game. So the first is actually not really a concrete topic in the game, but it's something Asmongold asked. So he asked Ian about stuff they learned from Shadowlands, so like what was most successful and what they feel went well, kind of thing. And they answered that how they're starting to think about how fun something will be to do multiple times. So while this doesn't really mean a lot by itself, if you combine kind of this thinking, with a bunch of other comments made throughout the reveal cycle, as well as just a shift in things in 9.2 and what appears to be happening in 9.2.5, we can see that they're kind of trying to make things more alt-friendly. It generally does seem like they're shifting their ideas of how this game should be, as well as like just generally how they want people to be playing the game. So for a long time, things on alts were really hard to do. You had to regrind stuff. Nothing was account wide. But it seems to be that they're trying to change the way they're thinking, that to make things more account wide, make things more accessible for people who want to do it maybe 12 times on their different alts, so who want, they level a class and like, oh look, I want to play Drakthir Evoker, and they go do that. They don't have to regrind everything. So this fits with a lot of other stuff. There's been a comment made, I don't know what developer made it, I think it was Ian, but he mentioned how the only thing that should be account-wide is gear. And, so stuff like this is kind of giving me hope that moving forward, a lot of things will be account-wide, and that'll be a big step forward and kind of making the game really good, because at the end of the day, we all just want this game to be the best it can be. Other stuff that came up was talk on loot. Now, there are a few things that came up in the interview about loot. One of those is that they're actually fine with certain loot pieces being good for a tier or two after they came out. So examples of this: Old Warrior Soul and Rogue Daggers from Second Domination. But even back in BFA, they had Bloodthirsty Urchin and Font of Power. Those were both really good during Nyalotha for certain specs, like Fire Mage was really good with Font of Power, for instance. So they're generally okay with stuff like this happening. But if they're super oppressive or really I don't want to say broken, but like really outliers, they will consider nerfing it, and it's generally going to be okay, but they're going to go case to case. The other thing that was brought up, and this isn't a surprise, was Master Loot. And the biggest surprise from this is that Ian actually kind of wants Master Loot back, sort of. They had issues in the past maintaining the two loot systems between Master Loot and Personal Loot. I won't go into that, but that's just what they said. However, they're working on kind of trying to bring some kind of idea for that loop system back. And things have been generally getting okay. There's been some weird things with like loot trading recently. But they want to move towards a kind of boss dropping X amount of loot and the raid dealing it however they want kind of system, like how it used to be. Now, there are issues with this, such as if you have a raid and a bow drops and there's no hunters for that bow, right? So that's an issue. As well, they don't want to go too far the other way and make it so that only loot for the raid can drop, because that'd be way too easy to class stack, right? You just throw in like 30 warriors. You're going to get all the warrior plate, all the two-handed weapons you want, everything like that. And it's just not going to be hard to, it's going to be way too easy for the high-end guilds to kind of abuse that. So they're kind of trying to figure out the best way to do it. There's nothing concrete and no promises right now, but it could happen during Dragonflight, which is exciting. There's also some talk about Ptr encryption. So people that don't know, lots of data mining gets done on the Ptr. Not even stuff that's just like released publicly, like affixes or raid content or anything like that. But there's a lot of stuff that's data mined within the PTR that isn't meant to go forward, like story content, certain raid mechanics, for instance. So they're working on kind of getting better PTR encryption, and we could see that in 9.2.5 with the new revamp to Tristfall Glades, I think it is, where we don't really know what's happening there. We know something's changed, but we don't know what. And they're working on new encryption software to kind of keep this feeling of exploration and surprise kind of going forward. So we'll see how that does in 9.2.5 and 10.0. If they pull it off successfully, it'll be great. Being able to see new zones barely spoiled would be great. Obviously, it'll make my job a little harder. But at the end of the day, people experiencing stuff for the first time blind and just getting surprised and feeling that joy of exploration will be a great thing for the game. They also talked about add-ons. So just kind of the way you have to live these days is that add-ons exist and they have to be balanced around. So raid fights are tuned around fun and difficulty relative to where they are in the raid. And they are tuning with add-ons in mind because the fact of the matter is that people use add-ons, right? So there's nothing really you can do about that. However, they're generally fine with add-ons, but add-ons recently have moved towards like computational add-ons instead of just, hey, you have a dot on you, hey, you have a buff on you, or hey, this thing's coming up soon. So computational stuff in their eyes is very bad because it takes away from like you actually playing the game, right? The computer does it for you. So they're trying to figure out some way of kind of fixing this and moving forward. They don't have any really like solid ideas right now. In the past, if there's an add-on that's like super far outlier, they've gone in through and locked it down, which they've done and they're not afraid to do again. But until they can kind of come up with one solid thought, this kind of stuff will still continue to happen. Now, the final thing, and this wasn't from an Asmongold interview, this was from another thing that happened, is about flying. So, Dragonflight's a big thing coming in the new patch, a new expansion, and it looks to be a really cool system. However, a lot of people have been worried that it's going to take away from their other flying mounts, right? However, they confirmed that normal flying will eventually come to Dragonflight, and Dragonflying will still be there. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can pull it off with Dragonflying still being relevant with normal flying there. Some ways I can think about this is if they tune Dragonflying to really be a faster alternative to get around, or maybe they have a bunch of like races or stuff where you're going to on your dragon, or like dragon combat, then you'll still have a reason to use Dragonflight. But I'm worried that they're going to make the system and it's going to just get thrown out because of the way they've kind of brought other flying back in. But I don't think they should get rid of normal flying because I think a lot of people like that. I just really hope that they'll be able to kind of balance dragon riding with normal flying in mind. So yeah, that's everything major that happened over the last few days covering Dragonflight. There's been a lot of cool information. They keep mentioning how they want to get us talent trees soon, so before the alpha, which I think the alpha should be coming fairly soon. Maybe not this week because there's the big Warcraft mobile game announcement Tuesday. But within the next couple weeks, I'm pretty sure we'll see some form of alpha announcement. So I expect the skill trees to be up by then, and I will cover all of the skill trees as soon as they go up to the best of my ability, because this is a really exciting thing coming to the game. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If there's anything you want me to cover, let me know. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing and liking. It really shows some support, and it really helps me out. I have some cool videos coming up over the next few weeks, so stick around for those, and thanks for watching.